myself, I'm Chloe Dixon. I'm the Vendor Manager and Marketing Executive here at KHIPU-NETWORKS, and I'd like to welcome you to our HPE and Juniper Networking acquisition webinar. So before we start, I will just run through a small bit of housekeeping. I think some people have been on this events platform before, but if you haven't, we want to keep this session super interactive, so please use the general chat to post any comments. Oh, thanks, Dan. Good morning, Dan. Any questions, any feedback, that would be great. On the right-hand side, on the sort of end tab, there's a little poll tab. We will be posting polls throughout the session. So the responses are anonymous. We don't store any data from this. It's just we'd like to sort of see where you guys are sort of sat in your current environment, what you're interested in. So please get involved with that as well. The session is being recorded, so if you would like a copy of the recording, please let us know after the webinar. This will be included in a follow-up mail. And then after the session as well, we'll head back onto the tables, so where you've sort of come in, and we'll do some networking afterwards. The KHIPU team and the HPE team are all here to answer any more questions. So I'm going to pass on to our speaker. So the whole session today is around the merger between HPE and Juniper. So back in January 2024, it was announced that HPE were going to acquire Juniper Networks to accelerate driven innovation. 2 years later, as of the 1st of January 2026, that marked business day one. So I appreciate there's probably quite a few questions and sort of ambiguous sort of issues or problems or queries around this. So that's what we're here today. We're here to address any sort of questions that you want to find out about the acquisition and how this impacts your organization and the future. So I'm going to pass over to Simon Wilson. Simon's the CTO at HPE Aruba, and he's going to take you through sort of what this vision looks like, sort of the who's, the what's, the how's, and the why's. So I'll hang on with you, Simon, whilst you share your screen.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chloe. It's great to be on a call with KHIPU again. You guys are one of my favourite partners, and it's so nice to be on an event again. You're absolutely right. It's been a journey. We announced that acquisition, 2 years ago. Actually, the deal actually closed on the 2nd of July last year, but as of the beginning of January this year, that was what we called employee day one. In other words, all of the staff are transferred across to being HPE employees. And I actually got a much bigger team. So about middle of last year, I also picked up responsibility for all the pre-sales engineers. And with the Juniper team coming on board, we've now got a really large team of pre-sales engineers out there to help our customers and our partners articulate what we're doing as a company. Because I think that's really important, is that, you know, when two big organizations come together like this, probably the biggest hardware acquisition in networking history, I can't think of a bigger one. When that comes together, inevitably there's a lot of questions about what does this mean to me as a customer? What are you going to do with these particular products? What is this going to do to change the market? So, you know, for the past kind of 6 months between July and the beginning of January, we were working very hard in the background to work on our vision. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. So hopefully you can see my screen. So we are HPE Networking. So, you know, the former HPE Aruba Networking and HPE Juniper Networking businesses that we had for the final part of last year, we're now HPE Networking. So if we start turning up talking about HPE Networking, that's got all the great technology and all the good people that have come from both sides of the house. And we made some real strong commitments. And if I've been talking to you before, you'll have heard me say that one of the first commitments that the executive made was that no customer would be left behind. In other words, as a result of the acquisition, we weren't going to kill any products. We weren't going to end of sale or end of life anything because we'd putting these two businesses together. In fact, on the contrary, we were going to use the fact that we had these two businesses with this much broader portfolio to accelerate our R&D development, and also to try and change the networking industry forever for the better. So the first thing we said was no customer left behind. The second thing we also said was that we were going to deliver every single R&D commitment that was already in the hopper. You know, in other words, if we plan to deliver new access points or switches on the Aruba side, then we would do that. If we plan to deliver some new software capabilities or new firewalls or routers on the Juniper side, we would absolutely do that. And that's exactly what we've been doing in the intermediate time frame. What we also said was that we were going to use that first 6 months to figure out how we could accelerate our R&D and start to bring those portfolios together, so that customers had a better choice and a broader portfolio to choose from. And another commitment we made was that, probably where the biggest questions came from really was that, in HPE Aruba, we had Aruba Central, and Juniper had the Mist platform. And I know a lot of our competitors will say, well, they bought Mist, they're going to get rid of Central. That is absolutely categorically not the case. In fact, on the contrary, our leadership came out and made a commitment that both platforms will be around for at least 10 years. So I think that's a fantastic thing to say, and a great way to protect the investment and the trust that our customers have put in us, that not only do we protect their existing investments, but we use that breadth of our portfolio and the breadth of our R&D team to accelerate those programs to change our networking industry forever. Now, as we move through that R&D program, both companies really had a very similar focus, and that was that, and this is a great slide to show it, is that up is not the same as being good. In other words, if you're implementing a network, if you're managing a network, if you're supporting your users or a data center, and increasingly, as we are today, over a streaming media, we need to make sure that not only is the network up, but also that the service we're delivering is good. Now, some applications, you can have the odd glitch, you can have some data dropouts, and nobody really notices. I'm thinking specifically around, if an email arrives 10 minutes late, would anyone notice? I suppose if you're sitting there waiting for it, it probably does, but most of the time we don't. If a web page takes an extra half second to load, do we notice? And if we do we even think about whether or not that's the local network or something else that's taking place? The answer is we probably don't. But if you're on a medium just like this one and you see even a small blip in the video, and to be honest, even more sensitive, do you see or hear an interruption in the audio? Then that's a problem. So our focus was, how do we make, not only do we give you to make sure the network is performing effectively in terms of connectivity and bandwidth and throughput, but also that the applications and, more importantly, the user experience was absolutely to the fore. Now, both organizations, both Aruba and Juniper, have been focused on that for quite a while, and the view was that if we can capture enough telemetry, we can use the power of AI to analyze that, and as a result of that analysis, we can then point the IT team in the right direction. More importantly, we can actually fix it automatically without them having to do anything, and that's really been our focus over the past few years. Now, this is a really good way to describe what we're doing. This is this path we have to what we call self-driving networks, and actually I think it's a really good analogy, because if you think about what's happening with self-driving cars, you think about how over time all of the services and the functions have evolved to remove the need for the driver to be involved in things. I mean, that could be just checking the oil because there's a light comes on the dashboard. It could be adjusting the timing. Some of those very old Crocs that do on the London-Brighton run, you have to adjust the mixture and the timing from the steering wheel. That just happens automatically. And increasingly, of course, with things like parking sensors and sat-nav, we just put it in reverse and we reverse till the beeps get constant. Or we tell the sat-nav that we want to go, to HPE in Winnersh, and it takes us there. And it doesn't just take us there, it gathers information along the way in terms of traffic. So actually there's a traffic holdup, we'll take a different route. So in other words, it's advising us and making recommendations as to what we need to do based on the telemetry it's gathering, i.e. what the traffic is taking place. Now that, of course, inevitably leads towards a full self-driving vehicle, a bit like what Teslas are doing these days, which is that, yes, you're sure you have to be there, but more and more, the safety aspect of it, the getting you where you need to be, the intent of what you're trying to achieve happens automatically. In fact, even now with a completely self-driving vehicle, such as these taxis that don't even have a driver, phenomenal. In fact, I was in San Francisco middle of last year, and they have a taxi firm called Waymo, which is completely driverless, a bit like the science fiction films and Johnny Cabs. There's no driver at all. And just to show you how people get trusting of these technologies, if you wanted to go on a Waymo, there was a 20-minute wait. If you wanted to get an Uber or a regular taxi, you'd get one in under 5. So the trust is being built over time in terms of that world, and we're doing exactly the same thing on the networking space. We're gathering telemetry, we're making recommendations recommendations, we're guiding the IT teams to what they need to do to fix things, and increasingly, use case after use case, function after function, we're automating those things to the point where actually after a while, you'll be able to see something happen once, agree that you're happy with the network to make that recommendation and fix automatically this next if it happens again, and then you're taking yourselves out of the loop. So that's really what we are in terms of driving towards those self-driving networks. Really, really powerful and important journey that we're taking across all of our portfolio. Now, our portfolio is divided into 4 technology stacks. Now, for today, we're going to focus on campus and branch because I know that's the one where typically there are the most questions, and also where, you know, historically with KHIPU, we've done the most business. So I know there's a lot of customers on here that have got our campus and branch technology either from the Aruba side of the house or from Juniper and want to understand where we're taking that and what we're doing. So what we're doing with campus and branch essentially is cross-pollinating functionality between the 2 platforms. In other words, we're taking the best of Central and putting it into Mist, and we're taking the best of Mist and putting it into Central. What we're also doing is looking at how we can build a single AP to deliver capabilities for both platforms. So we want to make sure we don't leave no customer behind, no end of sale or premature end of life of any platform as a result of the acquisition. But as we do our natural refresh, the next generation of switches and access points and other parts of the technology, how can we leverage the smarts that we have in both R&D teams to bring that forward? And that is very much at the heart of our self-driving network, is to understand any particular issue that, you know, might be impacting a user's experience or a device's experience on the network, or perhaps a security concern, and using the power of AI and the power of our self-driving network to help fix that. So campus and branches where all of our Wi-Fi and switching and network access technology sits, and that is going to be the focus of today. But in addition to the campus and branch portfolio becoming much stronger as a result of this acquisition, we also get some fantastic assets in other parts of our portfolio. I mean, I'll touch on, say, security, for instance. Now, within our security technology stack, not only do we have our SD-WAN capabilities, so you think about our Edge Connect and our SD branch functionality, and also our secure service edge, you know, the ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access technology that we got through the acquisition of Axis a couple of years ago. We're now adding all of those Juniper assets, including a firewall. I mean, I'm absolutely stoked that we now have a dedicated standalone next generation firewall right in our portfolio, because although, you know, we've always worked well with third parties, we've been very open in our approach to working with technology partners. It's nice to have it in your own portfolio to allow you to start developing some secret sauce that allows you to do things that you couldn't do through integration with third parties. So we'll still continue that work when working with, you know, Palo Alto and Checkpoint and Fortinet and all the others. But now with our own firewall technology, really, really strong. And of course, that also means that we bolster our SD branch and SD-WAN capabilities as well in that security portfolio. We also have routing infrastructure solutions now, which is really interesting. So, I mean, this is essentially where Juniper was born in terms of delivering routing technology, you know, the big MX routers at the heart of the internet. Now, I appreciate that most people on this on the call won't be thinking of building their own parallel internet. But there are some really interesting use cases that we get as a result of the RIS portfolio. So for those customers that want to build their own private WAN, fantastic capabilities to do that. And we've certainly got some big universities that do that today. For those customers that want to do a high-speed data center interconnect across their own, you know, private fiber, again, great technology to allow us to do that with very granular controls on security and packet performance. So the routing infrastructure solution, again, great thing to have in our kit bag, and we're certainly happy to talk about that with any of our customers moving forward.
Sorry, Simon, I'm just going to stop you. A question that's just come through. Do you mind?
Oh, sorry, yes, I can't see. Carry on. Yeah, ask me a question.
Will Central NAC be simplified for easier management, like access assurance, or is this the direction to keep having lots of different clicks to do anything?
The answer is we're always working to simplify the workflows of our platform. So Central NAC is relatively new, and the functionality is improving and increasing over day, as is, you know, us listening to our customers about how we can improve the capabilities. So the answer is absolutely yes. Our goal is not only to add additional functionality, but also to simplify the workflows as well. So the answer to that is absolutely yes. The area probably where we'll see the most incremental quick, I would say, wins is in terms of data center networking. Now, you know, the acquisition of Juniper makes networking a much more important and core element of what HPE is overall. And certainly the assets that we get from the acquisition of Juniper in the data center are really very powerful. So very big high-end switching platforms, the Apstra software stack, which is an intent-driven configuration and management tool for data centers, gives us very powerful capabilities. So you're going to start to see our HPE colleagues talking a lot more about networking, because it's a way that we can help customers extract more value out of their data centers and more value out of their AI estates and those GPUs that they're using to build those. So data center network is really very, very powerful. But like I said, the main one most people are interested in is around the campus and branch space, and that's really where we've seen the most accelerated R&D development. Now, the big question that always comes up is which one of these platforms are you going to keep? You know, Juniper's very strong in the cloud space, as is Aruba Central. But of course, you know, why would you buy Juniper if Mist wasn't the one thing you want? To be honest, is we want both. We saw some fantastic capabilities in Mist, and equally, Central has been on a tremendous journey. I mean, it's been as those of you who have seen the new UI, we've rewritten Central from the ground up over the past few years. So new Central, the new UI you're seeing is now GA and live. That's you know, the next step on that journey. But moving forward, we want to absolutely keep both platforms, because prior to the acquisition, we had two R&D teams. You know, one developing Juniper Mist, one developing Central. And although they're both developing a microservices architecture, and both were focusing on agentic AI as well, in both of their literally leading towards that self-driving network model. The two teams think slightly differently. You know, the Mist team, when you know, focused on some things, and the Central team focused on some others. And actually, that's really healthy, is to have people that think differently, because it means you get, you know, to cross-reference what you're doing, and it also means that you get a broader spectrum of ideas and capabilities to pick from than you would have if you just had one team thinking in one direction. So we're maintaining that. Two R&D teams, continuing with all the work they were going to do. Remember, all those commitments that we said will be delivered. But at the same time, looking at how we cross-pollinate between the two. And that's really powerful, because it means we can develop some functionality once, develop a use case once, and then share that across the two platforms. And I'm going to hand over to Phil in a minute. And Phil's going to show you some of those things actually live today. Some of the things that you're going to see cross-pollinated between the two, show you them live today. So things that, you know, we wish we had in Central already, he's going to show you how we do that in Mist and what's going to happen when it moves to Central. So some really cool stuff in that respect. But of course, long term, inevitably, what you want to do is bring the portfolios closer together. And indeed, that will happen over the next few years, to the point where at some point in the future, you probably won't be able to tell the difference. But any customer with existing install base will be supported. There is, however, one area where we are going to maintain the differentiation between the two.
Sorry to cut you off again, Simon. You do have another question that's come in. Brace yourself. Surely it doesn't make sense to keep developing two platforms that are doing the same thing. It's not that different what they are doing, or is it political?
It's not political at all. I mean, I think I just kind of said it quite well, actually, is that two R&D teams think differently. You know, they have different focus areas. And when you see Phil's demonstration in a minute, you'll understand why, right? Because the Juniper team focused on some quite different things to the Central team had focused on, both equally important. But of course, when you're developing a platform, you would love to have everything in the kit bag already. The question is, what do you prioritize? Central prioritize some things, the Mist team prioritize others, and the benefit we have is that we now have both in our kit bag. The reason for keeping both platforms is, one, is we want to maintain that I say diversity of thinking, but more importantly, at the very beginning I said no customer left behind. We want to protect those customers' investments, and over time, gradually through cross-pollination, make sure that, you know, any in the future single platform that we move to supports both user bases equally. That's really very important. We absolutely do not want to leave any customer behind and put any customer's investment at risk, because that wouldn't be the right thing to do. So that's why we're doing it. It's not political at all. It's just that we see actually there's more benefit in having two and maintaining two, and the difference of thinking than the potential savings that you could see from moving to one. It's much better to have kind of two dogs in the fight than it is to have one, and that's exactly what we want to maintain moving forward. So I mentioned about cross-pollination. Phil's going to show you some of the things that we're going to cross-pollinate between the two platforms. So I'll cut this bit short. What I did want to make sure that everyone understands is that the two platforms will have a very slightly different focus. So Mist has always been 100% focused on being in the public cloud. And for the majority of customers, this is absolutely the right call. So while Central will also be available in the public cloud and will get new functionality moving forward, in fact, arguably over time, the differences will, like I said, will become very minimal. One of the things Central is going to do that Mist is not going to do is offer an on-prem version. So if for data sovereignty reasons, and I think, sovereignty is quite high on people's thoughts at the moment for a variety of reasons. There are some customers that want to maintain data sovereignty and also want to maintain different implementation types. So if the public cloud is not right for you as a customer, then you have options, either VPC or indeed having it as an on-prem solution. So Central is going to deliver all the same functionality as the cloud version, but give you the option of having either an on-prem or a VPC implementation. And that's another reason why we're going to maintain the two platforms, is so that we can give the customers choice. 10 years ago, Antonio Neri said that the world would forever be hybrid. And that was before, recent geopolitical events, before COVID, before a whole bunch of things. I think his prediction is absolutely coming true, because some customers that we talked to that did move all their workloads into the cloud, public cloud, are now bringing some back for various reasons: cost, sovereignty, reliability, you name it. In fact, the recent kind of blip that AWS has had some customers thinking that maybe not having everything in that one public cloud is the right call for them. So in addition to cross-pollinating the software, the other thing we're doing is delivering common hardware as we refresh the platforms naturally. So all existing things are being delivered, but those that we could actually catch in flight, we've been able to slightly revector. So for instance, the latest two access points to come out of the Aruba side of the house. So there's a hospitality AP, the 725, and there's also a hardened AP. Those will be what we call dual stack. So in other words, the same physical access point will connect to both Central and to Mist. So looking forward, you're going to see more and more of that take place, is that one hardware platform will support the dual software platforms moving forward. I think it's fantastic. So it's a great thing to see actually happening in reality, and how quickly. Now, what I'll leave you with is some of the key benefits that our customers are seeing through the use of the self-driving technology that both companies were focused on prior to the acquisition, and indeed that's going to get even better as we move forward. A massive reduction in trouble tickets. If you've heard one of my presentations before, you'll know that I always say it's about time. Time to deploy, time to fix, time to secure. Because not only does that reduce the load on the IT team, but it also delivers a better experience for the user base and a more cost-effective environment for the organization itself. And it allows you to focus on things like sustainability and security and other things that you might want to do to help move the business forward. 80%, 5% faster upgrades. Why? Because we're making recommendations to the AI as to what the relevant version of code you need to run to deliver the outcome is going to be. And of course, being able to look at everything in the cloud means you're sending fewer people to site. And overall, an organization is spending 80% less time managing their network. And that's really important, because that time can then be utilized for other things that are more valuable to the business. So with that, I'll say thank you so much for your time. We are in a new era, delivering a new generation of networks, not just delivering using the power of AI to make the networks not only easier to deploy, easier to fix, and more secure, but on the reverse of that, we're also delivering networks to deliver the next generation of AI moving forward. So with that, I'll say thank you so much for your time, and I'm going to hand over to Phil.
Thanks, Simon. There was actually one more question before you go.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Let's do that before Phil. We hand it to Phil.
Now in the Q&A, but why are the Aruba APs so tiny and branded? AP should be heard but not seen. Any options for different colors in either roadmap?
Good question. So we already had the option to have different colors in the APs. Actually, we had covers that you could put on them. So I know some architects hate seeing anything. In fact, we had some cases where people put them above metal false ceilings and wondered why the RF wasn't so good. Phil will probably chuckle about that because I'm sure he's seen it once or twice in his career as well. But yeah, we do have the option of putting covers on them, and of course those covers can be sprayed any color you want to hide them if you need to. I happen to think that the Aruba APs look beautiful. And even my wife doesn't complain when there's one on the ceiling in our hallway. So, but yeah, we if you want to hide them, you can do, because there's covers that you can put on them to the different colors as well. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Simon. Right. Phil, we'll hand over to you now. Thank you.
Just check, do you hear my audio okay?
No, we can't hear you very well.
How about that one? Does that work better? Okay, cool. So I'm on the Chester train station, so I'm going to turn the camera off because you don't need to see this, and we'll get on to sharing a screen. My comment on the architects is they're quite happy for the fire systems to be on display. The point there is the fire systems you only use on the last day in the building, whereas the access points are used every day. So maybe the access point should be on display. Anyway, so I'm going to take you through the similarities that are already there within the two platforms. And as Simon says, he's really happy that there's a firewall in the portfolio. I'm really happy that I've got PEF back, because I was at Aruba back in 2006, and the firewall inside the AP for me was one of the strongest features. So we're both happy to be back together again, really. So if we look at something you're all familiar with the Aruba Central platform, this is the new central view, and everyone's familiar with this as far as the way that we actually break down sites, and we've got these sort of donut paths to show you various events that are happening, as well as the actual issues that are actually occurring over here. So going over to the sort of Mist platform, you can see here it looks slightly different, but if you go to the interiorization view, you'll see now we've brought that's pretty much the same view into the Mist platform. There's some wording that's slightly different, but this is effectively taking the same microservice that was running the central platform, deploying it into the Mist platform, and plumbing it in. At the end of the day, as someone said on the questions, it's the systems are doing the same thing, i.e. we're measuring the same sort of information, we're measuring the same sort of data. Therefore, presenting the same information in different screens is relatively trivial. So this is the first point of integration. If we also look in the Aruba Central environment, and we go on to the Copilot view, and we get this ability to ask really detailed questions, and the system will give really detailed answers. If we look at how Mist has done that over recent times, I'm going to have to just click this button. This is the Mist view today, and I can ask it to do things like unhappy clients, and it'll go off and it'll do its thing, and it gives you not quite stock responses, but it's a more predictable, controlled, simpler response than you'd get from Copilot. I'm on 4G, so you'll have to bear with us while it does its thing. So we wanted to bring the Copilot capability across from the platform. So now when I go onto Marvis, I get basically the Copilot view, right? So I can now actually ask much more detailed questions within this platform, and it will give me the more detailed and thought through answers that you get through from the Aruba platform. So there's two things we've immediately brought across into the Mist platform, and I'm not going to wait for this to do this. You'll get the idea. So what are we giving back? We've stolen all the good stuff from you guys. Where are we moving to actually bring things into the Aruba platform? Well, one of the key parts of the system.
Sorry, Phil, I'm just going to jump in with a quick question.
Please do.
Will the consistency of Junos CLI across Juniper hardware be maintained going forward? It was the main reason we brought Juniper after HP acquired 3Com.
Well, I like to think that when Mist got bought by Juniper, we actually took Juniper over rather than the other way around. Junos hasn't changed. Junos is an operating system. Well, it's an application running on top of an operating system. So Mist actually runs underneath Junos or above Junos, depending on how you want look at it architecturally, and we have the operating system. There's absolutely no reason to suggest that we're going to change that on the Junos switches. What will happen is that same integration will happen on other switches in the portfolio. That's all I can say on that. But there's absolutely no plans. Junos is 26, 27 years old, right? It's a very well-established protocol. It's a very well-established system. There are times when a simpler operating system would be useful. There are times when switches with different capabilities would be useful. The Juniper range is, we got small, medium, and large pretty much. It's quite limited, but all switches do all things. If you compare that to the CX range, for example, my presentation switches last about a minute. If you look at one of the SEs from the Aruba side, they can spend 25 minutes talking about switches. It's like we got little ones and we got the big ones, and that's about it. So Junos is not going anywhere because we can't change the operating system of the tens of thousands or millions of actual routers and switches that are out there. But equally, we're not planning on changing the other operating systems in the platforms either. The whole purpose of these cloud-based systems is to abstract away from that CLI. We're defining intent in the operating in the cloud, and then that intent is being translated into the CLI commands. Now, we've maintained the ability for you to drop into the Junos and actually run the CLI commands, and that's absolutely not going away. What is changing is some more controls on that. If we go into settings here, you see Marvis came up with a bunch of stuff down here. Yeah, okay. Under settings here, we do have the ability now to put role-based access on that, access to the CLI on the Junos devices. Because historically, everybody had full access and they could remove config or damage the switches in some way, whereas now we can actually allow other users to access it. So, it's being developed. It's certainly not going away.
Yeah, Phil, I just one more comment here is that you're absolutely right. I mean, our goal is that technicians don't need to go anywhere near the CLI to do anything they would ordinarily do, either deployment or fixing or understanding what's going on. So we want to try and make it so you don't need to go there. But when it comes to, if you do want to go to the CLI, there's really no reason for us to change it. It'll be a lot of heavy lifting. It would upset people because it would be slightly different. So there's no plans to change any of the CLIs on any of the platforms at this moment in time. But we don't want you to need to go there. That's why these platforms exist, is to save you the time of having to go down to the CLI.
There was another question about the CLI as well, which is why use the CLI when a click or AI can do it for you, reducing errors?
Because we're techies. All right. Yeah, I mean, Simon's got the right answer. I've got the answer they're thinking. The cloud, if you're trying to debug an issue in real time, the few seconds it takes to get to the cloud can be a pain. I fully admit that, right? But what we're trying to do in those scenarios is, if we want to go and actually say, okay, well, we're looking at this port, I need to see what's happening in that port in real time. Well, the live traffic counters button here will give me all the CLI information that I need in real time. This is using webhooks to actually feed that information in real time. So I can see these packet counters going up in real time as though I was on the CLI. Yeah, I don't want to wait a minute before the AI has done its thing and come back with a conclusion. I'm an engineer. I want to see the real data now. So we do have that. But the idea is we can bring the real-time stuff into the GUI in a controlled and easy way, rather than having to drop down to the CLI and learn a load of show commands. But the older brigade, of which I unfortunately count myself, still occasionally like to see some text and some numbers. But even that, that there are arguments to say, well, you're only looking at a certain amount of data. If we look at Marvis, for example, which is the thing I'm supposed to be talking about. This is the first thing that's going to go across into the central platform, which is taking that huge amount of information that is in the platform and baselining it and correlating it and finding issues based on the baselines that have been built. So if you have 20% DHCP failure on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock, but you always have 20% DHCP failure on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock, there's no point in us raising that every Monday morning saying you've got 20% DHCP failure. That becomes the normal baseline. If you've now got 40% DHCP failure, that is a potential issue. That's an anomaly, and that's what Marvis is really looking for. It's taking the noise away, because let's face it, wireless has a lot of baseline levels of noise. Things go wrong all the time. The key is to spot those differences. So being able to come in here and say, okay, well, what actually are the problems? Where are the DHCP actual failures? And we can see exactly here, this DHCP failures happening here, and we can drill into the detail of that, and it will analyze that and say, oh, look, this problem has just started. This is a demo environment. These are canned information. This DHCP failure has always just started whenever you look at it. But in the real world, it picks those up as well. It just looks a little bit convenient when it's just happened every time you do the demo. So that ability to take huge amounts of data and represent it on a very simple dashboard is really the first, or represent the actual issues on a dashboard is the first thing that will be going across into the central environment. And if we look over here, we can see this data center applications. Most of my issues are actually out in the data center. Now, within the Juniper platform, we have another product called Apstra, which is similar to Mist, but it's designed for EVP and VXLAN deployments inside data centers, and it is actually multi-vendor, that one. But we've absolutely cross-pollinated Marvis into that environment, so I can go into the data center solution and actually look at the data center Marvis. Now, I don't have access into the full configuration of the data center, but just because, if there are issues in that data center, it's nice to be able to see the same interface and actually look at those Apstra issues and see the BGP problems and actually go into some of the detail of those problems. And now, this details button here will launch the full Apstra interface, which I don't have access to, but I can at least see that BGP session, and that can inform me on the main platform where those problems may be occurring. So that ability for Marvis to be the engine that goes out and looks at other systems. And again, if we look here under the WAN edges, we can go and look at the core routers, and we can link into the core router side, again, that Simon mentioned. Now, Marvis is in its early days in core routers. It's not very exciting. I'm going to show you anyway, but yeah, work to be done, but it's a starting point. So Marvis has an ability to just correlate data and pull that data into a central environment, look at the baselines, and then look for the anomalies across those baselines. So that cross-pollination is already happening in both directions, and you will see this Marvis capability coming in very soon into the central organization. And it may only have a couple of tabs in the first instance. We still haven't finished. We still have got a clients tab and a security tab here that we haven't populated yet. It's a constant development. But within Central and within Mist, we do at least once a month software updates. So there is always things changing. There is always things happening in the platform. So hopefully that gives you a flavor of the fact that this is already a process that's ongoing. If you compare this to the Cisco Meraki world, where 13 years later they can just about see a catalyst switch in a Meraki dashboard, we are going at a much faster pace than that. So that's kind of what I wanted to show. Is there any other questions on that?
Yes, there was one more, which was, will we be able to choose either Mist or Central going forward, or will we have to use both management platforms if both Aruba CX and Juniper EX is deployed at the same location?
Pass. That's still to be defined. I can only talk about what's published roadmap at the moment. The switches will be easier than the access points because there's physical differences historically between the access points. So Aruba were focused on power efficiency and reutilizing hardware where they could, and the PEF capability as a physical piece of hardware in the access point, whereas Mist was a bit more blasé and added another radio just to do some security stuff, and we added some more memory to do some dynamic packet capture. So there's this physical differences on the APs. In the switching space, it's a simpler process for historical devices, but certainly going forward, the intent is that any new hardware, certainly all the Wi-Fi 8 hardware, when that comes along, will absolutely be dual platform. And the plan is for new switches as well to be new platform. The question is how far back we can go into the legacies of each supplier. On the why don't you just turn one cloud off? Well, both organizations have a huge number of clouds. Mist has got 12 separate clouds. If we decided to put everything into Central, we'd have to create 12 more clouds in Central to deal with all the users. So it doesn't make sense for us to turn off 50% of our infrastructure just to save a bit of money on development costs. So that's why both systems are going to be maintained, and as Simon said, there will be convergence. So I see a future whereby you'll have a button up here where you do Classic Central or Mist rather than Aruba Central. So you'll just have a switch between the interfaces, whether you want to see the Aruba version of it or whether you want to see the Mist version of it. It'll just be a button, 5 years down the line. But more and more, the capabilities and the functionality will be the same across the two platforms, and it'll just be a case of where you are now, you maintain the existing platform, or if you want to start a new platform, which one do you want to use? It'll be a customer choice for the majority of
yeah. I suppose from my perspective, for the moment, if you're an existing customer, and there's two worlds, isn't there? There's the existing customer that's already made a financial commitment. If you're an existing customer, then you've typically got Juniper Mist on the wireless and the wired side. And again, if you're on the Aruba house, you've probably made the same commitment that way. So that's why one of the reasons why both get support for a long time. When it comes to moving forward, the key thing is that you choose the right platform that's for you, and we're here to help you do that. So Paul and the KHIPU team and all of the pre-sales engineers and sales teams on the HPE side are there to help you make the right choice for your particular use case. If you want to look at how do I manage switches from Aruba with Mist with APs from Mist, watch this space. All I'll say is watch this space. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And Marvis is going to be key to that, right? To pull information from multiple sources into one location and allow decisions to be made in the central location. So it's watch this space.
Bill, thank you for your wrestle with technology this morning and
No
doing
worries.
a fabulous job of articulating what's going on. So we appreciate it, Phil. Thanks very much indeed.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
We're just going to move on. So when you guys signed up for the session, there was an option to submit any questions or queries. So we've collated them. So we're just going to run through some of them now. And if you have any other questions that haven't been covered so far, please pop them into the chat. We've got Paul Manners-Brown here. He is the Technical Account Manager at HPE Networking. Simon, you're more than welcome to stay and chip in as well for this session too. But if I just start with the first question, which is, what is the future of Juniper now HPE has acquired, especially the Juniper Certification and Open Learning Program?
So
Yes.
for the moment, both of our programs continue exactly as they were before. So, I mean, when you bring two massive organizations like this together, there's so much to do. The acquisition closed on the 1st of July, 6 months, and then the employees come on board of employee day one. We're doing the combined R&D moving forward. And throughout the process of this year, we are developing a unified partner program. Okay, so certifications and all of those good things. For FY27, we should be on a single partner program and therefore a single program for certifications and accreditations as well. So there's a lot of work going on this year to make that happen, ready for the 1st of November for our FY27. So for the moment, everything is exactly the same. We didn't want to be too disruptive in one go, and it's also very difficult to do that anyway. But from next year, it'll be a unified program with unified certifications as well. Now, all of the existing certifications will still be valid for their duration, but new ones will come through. Okay.
Perfect. Next one is, how/will HPE incorporate the firewall technology into their estate?
Well, for the moment, the biggest benefit of the firewall technology is the fact that it is a separate standalone firewall. There's already elements of it that are already manageable from Mist, and that's exactly how we're going to integrate it into the rest of the portfolio, is that integrated management through the cloud, so the cross-pollination of the widgets and the functions that we have. So that's exactly how we're going to do it.
Amazing. Next one is, what will happen to LAN products, wired, wireless? Will much change within the SD-WAN, Silver Peak versus Session Smart Routers?
Paul, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, can do. So obviously the Silver Peak has already been integrated into the stack. There was an actual event yesterday for our partners sort of going along on the roadmap around the SD-WAN, SSE and zero touch provisioning. So the future is the same really. The stacks are going to integrate. We're going to see a lot more being pulled through into central and then eventually med. So it sort of follows the same theme as pretty much the whole integration, where everything's going to eventually become one platform.
Yeah, and interestingly, you look at what the different platforms, they all do things slightly differently and do slightly different things. So actually, for the moment, that breadth of choice is quite useful, because if you want to do it the Edge Connect way, you want to do it the SD branch way, you want to do it the SSR way or the SRX way, you've got the choice to do so. So team are busy evaluating the functionality and seeing how we can best simplify that while maintaining what we said originally, which is no customer left behind. So that's the process that's taking place right now.
Great. Next one is, how might this change impact the HE sector?
How will it change the HE sector? Well, I think one, there's a stronger competitor in town now. I think, I personally, if I take my HP hat off, just as a technologist in this industry for my entire career, what we've been crying out for at least 25 years is another competitor to really put pressure on that other vendor in this industry. I don't even use their name, to be a bit fairer, a bit nicer, a bit cheaper, a bit more aggressive with their R&D, and deliver more value and more innovation. I think that helps us do that. And certainly the HE sector is a sector where you tend to like the best of breed, not necessarily always from buying from a leading vendor. So if we're making the whole industry more competitive, we're driving innovation more across the entire industry, I think that's good for everybody. So that I think is certainly more powerful. For the other piece of it, I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think the fact that we're now cross-pollinating the functionality means that, and we know there are a lot of opportunities and a lot of customer purchases where the final two at the table were Aruba and Juniper, and maybe if there were three, it was Aruba, Juniper, and Meraki. And you like this that Aruba did, you like that Juniper did, and you like that Meraki did. The fact that we're cross-pollinating that functionality kind of means now that actually you can have your cake and eat it. It means you get that functionality that we know is the most valuable functionality. Right, that's what we're going to cross-pollinate first, and you get it in either of the two platforms. So whether you liked the way that Central did it, but you wanted this Mist function, or you like the way that Mist did it and you like this Central function, you get the best of both worlds. So I think it drives innovation, it drives choice, it drives competition, and I think it drives value.
We've had a couple come through in the chat and the Q&A bit as well. Will the HPE buyback program also be made available to customers that would like to opt to buy Juniper switches instead of Aruba CX?
Good question. I need to check, but I don't see any reason why not. I need to double check that, but yeah, I don't see any reason why not. Everything we're doing is about making sure that customers can make the right choice moving forward. So I don't see why we would exclude that, but I would need to check that out.
Perfect. Next one is, if you were going greenfield and cloud is okay, do you suggest Mist or Aruba?
What do I suggest? I suggest you talk to KHIPU. and I mean, that's being a bit flippant there, but actually it's all about getting the best advice for your particular use case. The platforms do things slightly differently. Yeah. So I can tell you that if it's just the Wi-Fi and some of the things that Mist does right now today are the most important things for you, then absolutely I would go with the Mist platform. However, if you've got some requirements in terms of the switching portfolio that require have this mix of ports and this PoE and this functionality, then CX and Central is absolutely the way to go. There is a greater variety of access points on the Aruba side than there is on the Mist side. But then if the Mist side has got the APs you need, and like I said, the functionality there. So it's really about figuring out exactly what's most important to you right now, and how that matches with the roadmap of the two platforms, and figuring out which is the best one. And the best way to do that is to talk to KHIPU, and KHIPU can help bring us in to support them at any time you need to. I love talking to customers. Right, I'd rather be doing that than be sitting here. I suppose I am talking to customers, aren't I? So there you go.
Thank you. And then there's a question, like comment put in the chat, which you might have some feedback for, which is, we have other much less expensive management platforms that manage our Juniper switches, which has proven much more responsive than Mist. Having tested Mist, it did not provide much more information than I could figure out myself. We don't use Juniper or Aruba APs, so Mist is not a priority or affordable to us. I'm not sure if you have any feedback on that.
Carry on doing what you're doing. I mean, we're going to add more functionality and more value into Mist and into Central that drive towards self-driving networks. And at the end of the day, it's all about value, isn't it? It's not necessarily about price or other things, although price is a factor. Actually, if you can't afford the value, you can't get to it. But I would say if it's not delivered, you don't see it as delivering the value, carry on doing what you're doing today, but keep an eye on where we're taking this R&D journey, because the more and more we deliver this self-driving networks capability, the more and more time you'll save by having that platform. And the question is how much is that time worth to you compared to the lower cost platforms that you get? Even if the functionality is the same, the time you're going to get back, I think, is very, very important. So I think it's worth considering. But yeah, we're here to offer you choice, right? Not to tell you what to do.
Thank you, Simon. And then just a couple more from the registration questions. Will Juniper lead on one vertical and HPE on another? For example, switching will be HPE, be campus, and Juniper DC?
No. I mean, vertical. So you talk about technology pillars rather than verticals. So when it comes to a vertical, i.e. retail, healthcare, hospitality, sports and entertainment, finance, absolutely not. What we are focused on is the use case. So looking at what the challenges the customer has are, what their strategy is moving forward, and providing the best advice we can to deliver the correct platform on the day to them, and also if we use that to influence our R&D and innovation moving forward. So again, that's a talk to KHIPU one, right? It's just you guys are the experts with your customers. They'll tell us what they need, and we'll figure out what the best platform is for them.
And then final question from here is, can you provide an insight into future development for the next 5 to 7 years, as well as zero trust capability?
I guess I already have, but I'll reiterate it. The journey for the next 5 to 7 years is absolutely about cross-pollination. So taking the best of both platforms and cross-pollinating the two. I think it's the natural innovation that you would see from us. So we've already talked about Wi-Fi 8. So middle of 27, you're going to see the first Wi-Fi 8 APs come into the come to the market. That will be a unified platform moving forward, which is really, really cool. You're going to see more devices delivered as a collaboration, not just between the networking team, but also other divisions within HPE. So, for instance, any of those you who either went to Discover or listened to any of the replays on YouTube, well, no, we introduced a platform called the QFX 5250, which is the world's first liquid-cooled switch, and that was delivered as a result of a collaboration between the data center networking team, formerly the Juniper guys, and our high performance compute, so formerly the Cray and SGI people, and also our hybrid IT team as well that delivers the compute platforms. So the three work together to deliver that platform. You can see more and more of that moving forward. So that's our plan for the next 5 to 7 years.
I think just to touch on the zero trust piece there, we've got a full product portfolio within HPE. There's actually a unique team that only look after the SSE, zero trust, and security piece. So if you're looking to sort of invest in that, reach out to KHIPU, and we can engage with those specialist teams.
I think that's all the questions that we've had. So I'm going to say thank you all for joining us.